is understudied for some reason. But Nigeria is the largest country in Africa.
Hello.
Do you think
You all can keep on eating. We're going to have Dr. Tarek Hussein come speak to us. He has a doctor's in physical therapy, and right now he's pursuing a master's in sociology. Dr. Tarek Hussein.
We always start saying Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you.
Malikum salam.
I'm really very thrilled to be among you here today because I personally learned a lot from Dr. Schwartz and Dr. Joseph. You are a good example for anybody who wants really to understand who he is or she is. Well, as you mentioned, by education I have a PhD in physical therapy from Texas Women University in Medical Center in 1999. And for some reason, and don't ask me why, I found my brain shifts from medical to sociology, and I start become more interested to understand the society and the environment I live in. Because I was born in Egypt, and I came to America in 1992, and I was really doing good. I was working in Methodist Hospital, and I was doing great, and I have my clinic and my home care agency, me and my wife, she's my partner also, and we did really good, but I felt like I'm missing something. What's going on around me? So I try to understand the environment. I have great respect for my dear brothers and sisters who are really originally from Africa, because you guys have a unique history, and of course I'm one of you. I'm also, I consider myself African American because I'm originally from Egypt. And with that, I'm gonna just give you a taste of kind of everything, because this 5-7 minutes is like a magic, really, 7 minutes. So if you see me doing this and this, don't think I'm crazy. No, I'm just trying to tell you about here and tell you to get the next slide. So please, next slide. This is just give you an overview about what I'm gonna talk about. Generally, this is North Africa. Starts from Egypt on the east side to Morocco on the west side. And as you see from the north, it's all Mediterranean Sea. Talking about population, you're going to see most of people live really around the Mediterranean coast. Egypt is the most populated, 90 million, but 95% of Egyptians, believe it or not, live around the Nile River. Nile River comes from Ethiopia, going to Sudan, going to Egypt, put in the Mediterranean Sea. So that's the most cultivated area for also agriculture. Egypt considered the second most popular populous country in Africa. Mainly, most people in North Africa, mainly they call them Arab and Berber. Their faith is Islamic, the majority of them, but of course we do have also Christians and Jews. Like Egypt, for example, 90% or about 85% Muslims and 15 or to 10% Christians. Arabic is the main language, but also there's other languages like French, English, and Italian. These countries were liberated in the 50s. It started with Egypt in 1952, where Jamal Abdel Nasser, or known as Nasser, he was actually he was not the first president. Some textbooks they mention Nasser, but they forgot there is another guy who really started this revolution in Egypt in 1952, Muhammad Naguib. He was actually the first president, not Nasser. But most textbooks mention name of Nasser. Nasser had a charisma, and he started really encouraging other surrounding Arab countries to also get liberated from European influence. So with that, Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, he started the revolution in 1969, and of course he became dictator, and as you see in the following slides, every one of those became dictator after that. Tunisia, 56, Algeria, 62, Morocco, 56, and Western Sahara, nobody talks about it because it is really a small country, but it is really under the occupation of Morocco until today. In terms of education, of course, you're gonna see as a third world country, always gonna be a gender gap, mainly in the rural areas because of lack of providing services and cultural influence. Parents in that area, they like the girls to be home, a mother who just Her main function is to have kids and take care of the kids, and also help in maybe in agriculture and in plantation. Illiteracy rate is high. Some countries reach to up to 30% illiteracy. Quality of education and academic achievement, of course, is not up to the standard. Education management reform, post-independence period, was some of these governments, they tried to do a reform, education management reform, after they became independent. Lack of applied research. This is something I personally lived in Egypt, and I found out there is extremely lack of applied research. Research either academic or applied research. There's no companies really who sponsor like applied research, and they don't really benefit from applied research. So there's no such kind of research. This is for young people who want to also relate with other countries. There's something called Association for Childhood Education International, known as ACEI, Childhood. They are interested in childhood education practices and policies, and this is like you can just connect to this association and to learn more about what's going on for childhood in other parts of the world. In terms of poverty, as you see the vicious circle of poverty, we all know that this vicious circle is just keep going, and poverty causes poverty and trap people in poverty unless there's external intervention is applied to break this cycle. The reason I mention this because in these countries it's hard to find external intervention to break this cycle. Just quickly, as you know, poverty can be either absolute, relative, situational, generational. In most of these countries, you don't find absolute poverty because there is no really chronic lack of basic food, clean water, and health services. There is no really such kind of poverty. However, you find, of course, relative poverty there, and you find also generational or chronic poverty because people are trapped in its causes of poverty and no access to tools. There is no external intervention. Government. Most of these countries ruled by autocratic regimes. And as you understand, triangle of power is always going to be and we have Doctor of Political Science here. You see the government, you see also the military, and the business people. That's a triangle of power in every country. And in these third world countries, it's well connected. You see people in government, they are also business people, they own the big corporations, and they also have relationship with people in the military. It's always going to be like that. Of course, they are responsible for unequal distribution of resources. When we're going to talk later about the revolution and the anti-revolution forces in Arab Spring, you see that how the anti-revolution forces was so strong to really defeat these revolutions in the Arab Springs, unfortunately. Military intervention you're going to see in Egypt, not just the influence of Egypt, but also you're going to see that what happened in Egypt, they try to take this as an example and apply it in Libya. Libya, the general in Libya is trying also to lead the anti-revolution in Libya to take over the country again. Future revolutions of Arab countries is really unpredicted. Okay, you asked me to talk about the relationship between Egypt and United States. Just briefly, from the history during the Ottoman Empire and the British colonization of Egypt, the United States relationship was very minimal. But after Nasser came to picture and he liberated Egypt from Britain, what happened is United States or the US policy helped to keep him in power. Not because they love him, but because always the policy of US, the foreign policy, always to have the strong relationship with dictators so they can control their own people. And that's what happened. Sadat was the same scenario. There's no change in the policy. As long as US policy to support military dictatorship that support US and of course protect the Israeli interest in the region. Mubarak, same thing. When the revolution happened, US supported democratic election, but when the military coup happened, the relationship starts some ups and downs, but I'm sure it's going to be stabilized. This is like a little bit in more details. During Nasser time, at the time of Eisenhower, they developed something called Omega Memorandum, which is a stick to marginalize and reduce Nasser power. They don't try to get rid of him like British. No, they kept him in power, but they tried to marginalize him to reduce his power. Egypt, because Egypt recognized the communist country China, and U.S. also ended the talk about High Dam. High Dam was like the source of keeping the water from, keeping the Nile River or the Nile River from flooding. So Egypt was in bad need for having the High Dam. But U.S. ended talk about it. And also Nasser in 1956, he nationalized the Suez Canal. And as you know, Suez Canal connected between the north and south, connected between Mediterranean Sea and between the Red Sea. Israeli invasion with French and Britain, they occupied the Swiss region in October 1956. Eisenhower administration intervention through diplomatic and economic pressure, they were able to force Britain and French to withdraw their forces. During Sadat time, we all remember Sadat, or most Americans, they know Sadat as a hero because he's a peace guy. He's the guy who started the peace treaty with Israel. He recognized that reaching a settlement of the Arab-Israeli conflict is precondition of Egyptian development. And normal diplomatic relations started with U.S. on February 28 of 1974 after 6th of October war. Sadat also, at that time, because Nasser developed the relationship with the Soviet United, Sadat get rid of 20,000 Soviet technicians and soldiers and reopened the Suez Canal. And later on, he started the peace agreement, the treaty with Israel, and of course under the care of the President Jimmy Carter. That was in 1979 Camp David Accords. Of course, the relationship is really unique because it is mainly military cooperation. Mainly, the relationship between US and Egypt is mainly military. And they consider Egypt is the strongest aspect. They consider this relationship is the strongest aspect of the strategic partnership. Egypt, according to General Anthony Zini, he considered Egypt most important country of his area because he was responsible for that area because of the access it gives him, according to what he says, to the region. And in Clinton administration, they also consider Egypt as the most prominent player in the Arab world and a key U.S. ally in the Middle East. This is when Mubarak visited Camp David in 2002 to also start or to complete the peace process to get Sinai back. And Sinai came back, I believe, Egypt took Sinai back in 1985, I believe, but that was just a visit of Hosni Mubarak with President Bush. As I said, they consider Egypt's strongest military power on the African continent, and they started, like, the relationship started to be kind of a little bit more independent relationship between, or independent bilateral relationship, because when United States started the war in Afghanistan, Egypt refused to send troops to Afghanistan, and same thing happened with Iraq. Egypt also refused to send troops to Iraq. So there was a kind of a little bit of tension in the relationship. But after 9/11, of course, Egyptian security and military shared valuable intelligence and provided useful counterterrorism assistance. This is what U.S. officials said in USA Today. Egyptian President Mubarak with the U.S. President Barack Obama. Barack Obama, when he went to Egypt, after he became president of the United States, he visited, the first country he visited was Egypt in June 4th, 2009. And his visit was like a change in the policy of the U.S. towards Islamic countries and Arab countries. This is when he was in Pyramid with Dr. Zahi Hawass. But in December 29, 2011, after the January Revolution, the Egyptian police and soldiers, they raided 17 offices of local and foreign NGOs. including IRI and NDI, Freedom House, and German Conrad Foundation. And that was also caused some tension in the relationship. In September 11, 2012, Egyptian protesters stormed the US embassy in Cairo, tore down the American flag. That was because of the anti-Islamic movie that denigrating Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and that was made in the USA. That's why everything, happened for a reason. General Martin Dempsey, the US, he mentioned that the US-Egypt military ties will depend on Egypt's action towards Israel. Very clear. The behavior of Egyptian military towards Israel, that will constitute the type of relationship we're going to have. In July 2003, military coup happened, and they deposed the first democratic elected president, Dr. Mohamed Morsi. Obama administration condemned Egypt's violence, crackdown on Muslim Brotherhood and its supporters. And they also canceled the future military exercises and halting the delivery of F-16 jet fighters and helicopter. But this, just to tell you, this is our Secretary of State, John Kerry. He was with Dr. Morsi, and then he was with Sisi. Sisi is the leader of the military coup, and then he was with the Secretary of State of Egypt. So the relationship between Egypt and the United States is going to be always to the interest of the United States, regardless to who controls Egypt. Next slide, and the last slide. This is just humble key points from me, telling you if you get a chance to visit these countries, and I put this before I heard you. So this is, of course, going to be very humble to say that. If you get a chance to connect with any abroad institutions, please do so. If you get a chance to get information from free and non-biased media, because you're always going to stereotype. Helping develop a positive relationship is a win situation. Knowing students on campus, if you get to know any student on campus originally from Africa, that would be also a good thing to do. Thank you.